Southern California, and today I have a treat. The one and only, the one we've been waiting for a long time, decades, Corvette C8, here. And who's driving it? A race car driver, my little friend, Russ Taylor. You're gonna see how tiny he is. Hi, Russ.
Hey, Al, how you doing?
It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you, brother.
I just want to get one thing out of the way. You know, for folks that are used to driving these supercars and how difficult it is to fit in them, please look at this man. Okay? 6'4". Could you please turn around 1 second? Okay, so get the picture. This guy fits fine inside this car. Now, today we have a unique situation. Besides, you know, what the funny things that I may say. We have experience on the C6, on the C7, and the C8. Those are the last 3 generations of Corvette. I've been racing C6s for a long time in SCCA, and he's been doing the same thing in NASA with the C7, and hopefully next with the C8, the car that has just come from Laguna. So we're gonna learn a lot about how to drive these cars. Now, he is a NASA driver, I'm an SCCA driver, but very soon, I'm gonna be racing NASA as well, so you're gonna be in trouble.
Let's see, buddy.
I guess I better look at the car first.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay. Oh my God, look at this thing. Come on, man.
Yeah, they did an incredible job on
This is a $60,000 car. I mean, come on, this is ridiculous. Unbelievable. So anyway, before we get into this beauty, could you please tell us a little about you?
Yeah, a little about me. Like you said, I love racing. I've been racing for, geez, probably 13 years now. Father of 3 kids, just had a baby actually, and the car was delivered at the hospital 2 days after.
Congratulations.
And, yeah, I love my family, and business is good, man. We're fighting through things, so.
So this is a 6.2,
Yep.
490 horsepower.
495, don't forget that.
490 stock.
Yes.
495 with the Z51 package, correct? Okay, now this is the Z51 package.
Yep.
Could you please tell me a little about this package?
Yeah, the Z51 package was a no-brainer for me, you know, knowing that I was going to be taking this car out to the track and enjoying what it was meant to be. And so you got the upgraded brakes, you've got the upgraded cooling for, you know, engine-wise, be able to run the car on the track. And then you've also got the suspension, some modified suspension with the Z51, and then finally there's a little bit of aero bits that it comes with as well. So it's really neat to have those extra little features, and you know, even though maybe eventually I'll modify those out and change it to something else, but for now, knowing that you can get the car out on the track and it's going to perform, it's awesome.
Okay, and as I am
The aero parts is, you know, things.
right, and as I understand, even the tires, these are the Pilot 4. Compared to the...
I burned through those pretty quick. Willow Springs, in fact, I've got the Cup 2s on there right now, but yeah, it came with the 4.
The Pilots. So anyway, we know, and this is another thing that I'm so impressed, that a $60,000 car could also have the absolute right tires. And I noticed that the car has the right tires, and the Z51 has the Pilot 4 tire. Which is absolutely fantastic tire. And my little story about it is I was lucky enough to be invited by Michelin to COTA. And in what they did, they gave us basically some supercars, but on different tires. Okay. The same car with Pirellis, Continentals, and of course Michelins. Right. Now, they wouldn't tell us the kind of tires we were driving. So there we are, lapping, going all around, and consistently we lapped faster, way faster, with a Michelin with any other tire. Now, never mind when we got on the wet. It was not even close. And actually that was the time when we knew these are Michelins, as soon as we got on the wet.
Yeah, we had the 4S's obviously with the car originally, and I ate through those things I think in one day at Willow Springs, and so we have the Cup 2s on here, and these things are just phenomenal. Took these out to Laguna Seca, Streets of Willow, they're beautiful. And I've had these now for probably 5,000 or 6,000 miles, running up and down the streets and everything, and they're still solid.
And when you order it,
yeah,
what options did you choose?
So I pretty much optioned the car out. I mean, starting at 60 and adding in some of the options, the Z51. This is the LT3, so it has some of the nicer leathers, and I got the carbon fiber, the heads-up display. I did the exposed carbon, and kind of optioned it just about all out, but I didn't get any of the aero pieces because there was a lot of constraints from GM. I think only a handful of cars actually got the actual carbon fiber pieces and stuff, and all that they actually cut out. I guess the manufacturing, that's not a possibility anymore.
So you have a little of an upgrade brakes on the car, being the Z51 package, correct? Now, you have taken the car to the limit at Laguna Seca, okay? No better track than really test this beautiful thing. Now, tell me the experience about the brakes. How did it behave? Like, let's say, coming into the corkscrew.
Yeah. The brakes are good for what would be equivalent to a base Corvette at the end of the day, right? Once the Z06 and all that stuff comes out, it's the base Corvette. Brakes are good. What was a disappointment was the pads. At the time I went to Laguna Seca, they didn't have any aftermarket pads, any kind of race pads, any kind of compound that would be sufficient for a track. So I had to go out on the street pads, and those things literally got annihilated. I actually had to go to a dealer on Saturday morning and get a set of pads from them, and I was so lucky because the other ones went down to bare metal. So definitely have to switch out the pads to the minimum, but it feels good. It's interesting too when I first got out because it's got the electronic braking system, and the dynamic of that was a little bit, it just took a minute to get used to, right? Because the balance of it, and it's just the sensation of it was a little bit different, but it's incredible though. Once you figure out what that balance is, it's really spectacular.
So the big question, someone that is used to performance, when you started braking Laguna, the first minute you come out, you're hot, you're braking hard, the car obviously can brake real well. Now, how did it behave 10, 15 minutes after that?
That was actually one of the things I was very surprised with. We did change the fluid. We went to a high temp, race fluid. That was one of the things we switched out prior to going to the track. But the consistency was solid through the whole day. The only issue was the pad itself deteriorating, but the consistency of the brakes, I never had anything where it's going to the floor or anything. So I was very impressed with that actually.
So anyway, I know you're very much like me. And even though they deliver us something perfect, we always want like a little bit more. What did you do to this baby?
You know what? I think before I tell you what I've done, I think it starts with the curse of the Corvettes. So I started with my C7. I believe I had the first C7 Corvette in Southern California.
Wow.
And I was excited to have it. Got lined up with HRE wheels. They were actually going to use the car for their booth in SEMA. Well, in about 3 weeks of having the car, I had electrical failure that seized the oil pump and ultimately seized the motor. And the car was in there. They had technicians coming down. And it ends up that I missed having the car at SEMA. So then this thing comes out, and I'm working with all these incredible sponsors. We'll go over some of the parts, and guess what happens? SEMA gets canceled this year.
Yeah.
I was all set to be in MagnaFlow's booth, working with HRE wheels and APR Performance, do a whole carbon fiber overhaul with Anderson Composites, and SEMA gets canceled. So I'm hoping that maybe the next Corvette I'll have a SEMA car.
So this is fantastic. Before SEMA, it's us.
So far, this is probably one of the more neutral cars thus far, just because everything has been going on. But I've been super excited to be able to partner with HRE wheels. We have their P101 SCs in this beautiful bronze finish against the red. I really love that. And then we have the MagnaFlow exhaust, partnering with them as well. We have the second exhaust for basically research and development, and we've been testing it for the last 4 or 5 months, and the tone on it is just so much better than the factory.
Does it give you a couple more horsepower?
A few more horsepower, but I think really just the tone, the range was really the main piece. Yeah.
So basically, that's how incredible the car is.
Yeah.
That the mods are kind of like, wheels, not that much. So the major change, the one that makes it perfect distribution, is finally the engine
Back here.
where Zora told us it was supposed to be.
It should have been done 60 years ago.
And it is here.
Yes.
Now, I don't think there's a better person to ask than maybe you.
Maybe.
Because you've had fantastic experience with the C7, the previous engine, and this is a new engine. Could you please tell me what is the difference that you see, if you see any? Is there a big difference?
So the biggest change, besides the look and the feel, is really the placement of the engine. And obviously with the C7 having that up in front, this sitting right back here, the handling of the car is so much better.
So basically, you don't see a big difference in between engines.
Power-wise, I don't. You know, when the C7 came out, you know, we've gone and supercharged that and cammed it and everything, so it's a different monster now. But when they were compared side by side, there wasn't that big of a difference. Now, where the difference that I have seen, hands down, is in the dual clutch transmission and the way that the engine is able to deliver the power now in compared to the C7, which is fun banging through gears, but this thing just launches like a rocket.
And what is a dual clutch transmission?
Yeah, so the dual clutch transmission honestly is one of my favorite things about this car. I've had manuals, you know, pretty much my whole life, and coming to this thing, at first I was reluctant, like everybody is, but what's incredible about this thing is how quickly it delivers the power. What's neat about it is you have one gear engaged that's driving the car, and the second gear is already spun up and ready to engage, and the moment that you go from the paddle shifter, it immediately goes into gear and it's already going. And that's where I think, again, I've seen the most significant change in the delivery of power and the experience of driving the car, is just because it just goes so quickly.
Now, besides what you just said, there is something huge about the engine, which we know what it is. The dry sump.
Yes.
Now, what is a dry sump? Okay, I'm going to explain part of it. I'm going to let you explain the other side. What usually happens, there are some unbelievable cars that you can take to the track. Yeah, don't take it for more than 10, 20, 25 minutes, because you may blow the engine. Why? You go to certain tracks where there is banking, and what happens is very simple. The G-forces are going to push the oil on the engine to one wall. What that means is that you're driving dry on one side of the engine, and that's going to cause a lot of damage. What the dry sump does, it just lubricates the dry area when the G-forces take the oil to the wrong side, as far as I'm concerned, the wrong side of the engine. So, and the thing that, you know, us race car drivers had is that many times, knowing that we have to do this, we have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars, and then again, we don't even know if it's done right. It's not like the perfect formula, okay? Now,
lines,
yes,
and everything, which ultimately is just going to leak.
Give me your experience about a dry sump.
Yeah, so the dry sump system, which again, I mean, having it on this car, it's critical. The dry sump system, you basically have oil pressure and oil in the motor at all times. So at a track like a Laguna Seca, or out here in California at Fontana Raceway with a high bank, you're always having oil. It's not sloshing out to the side. You always have oil in the motor, which is going to make sure that you have the confidence to be able to drive the car as hard as you can, knowing that there's not going to be an oil starvation issue.
It's the guarantee, it's the warranty, it's the real warranty that you can go and take this car to do exactly what it's been made out to do. One thing I haven't had the chance yet, and I'm dying to get the experience, is how does it handle?
Yeah, you know what, man, honestly, that's probably my favorite thing about this car. I mean, you know, we talked about how the racing, I've got a 2015 Z28 Camaro, it's gutted, cage, and I've raced that for several years now, and that handles very well. But this thing it's literally like nothing I've ever driven before. The balance of the car with the engine in the rear, the stability of the car, the nimbleness of it, it's just incredible. It's so much fun to drive on the street, hitting the canyons and all that stuff. But when I had this thing on Laguna Seca, that was like the true testament of just how incredible this car is. Handling, the balance, and everything is stock. I haven't done anything. We did the factory adjustments. They have like a track alignment. We did that, lowered that ride height a little bit, did some camber adjustments. Will, my buddy at Technica, he did all the setup and the suspension work, and I mean, just the thing is spectacular.
And all the while, you assisted by the PDR.
Yep.
Could you please tell us what the PDR is?
Yeah, so the PDR is the performance data recorder, and it's the coolest thing. Again, in my Z28, I've got like all these like little screens and all this stuff to try and just capture data. Data is so critical for being on the track.
Yeah.
And literally out of the box, this thing's like a PlayStation. You download the SD card, it's got footage of the track, it's got footage of the street driving, it's got all your RPM range, G-force, speed, gears, the mode you're in, everything. It's incredible. It could have been able to partner with Fusion of Ideas and done some really cool integration with applications and everything that we do, but for now you got to sit here in your screen, watch it on the thing, which is really cool.
Who is Fusion Ideas?
Fusion of Ideas is my company.
Oh.
Yeah, we do app development and brand integrations for companies.
Okay, and what is Z mode?
So the Z mode is kind of it's like a setting, which is really cool because you can actually start to kind of manipulate. So if you want a certain exhaust mode and then you want a handling mode, you can kind of modify your own little setup.
How many modes do you have? It's a combination of a lot?
Yeah, there's
okay,
a track
gotcha.
mode, sport mode, weather mode, and then this the Z mode and kind of my mode allows you to customize your own, which is really neat. You just have one button and it's exactly what you want. But in addition to that, what's neat about this car compared to the C7 is you can actually have your own kind of mode. So you can set up different suspension settings, steering setting, the exhaust note, and you can kind of play with it, and with a touch of a button on the steering wheel, it goes right into that mode exactly what you want, which is really fun.
Like the real PlayStation.
Yeah, just push a button and you go.
That's awesome. And then, besides the weight, the other thing, I mean, this is something little, but it's huge. You know how it is. In all those kind of cars, race cars, one of the problems we have is that there's a lot of blind angles. We can't see sometimes very well, and we're going to different speeds. So you have to react quickly, and we don't see that well on the back. Now, the supercars are the worst. I remember Lamborghini, early supercars were impossible. When you look back on the mirrors, you couldn't see anything. Now, please tell me about this little feature that is the rear view mirror.
Yeah, so the camera views is such a cool feature on this car. I mean, you know, you can see from the back of the vehicle, there's literally this small, tiny little window that you can look through. But with the rear view mirror, and it has this really neat feature where digitally it has a camera in the back of the car, and it actually gives you this really wide angle view on what the car is seeing behind you, and then that's put onto a digital screen on the rear view mirror, so it's an incredible view. In addition to that, you've got a rear camera on the bumper for reversing, and then you got a camera in the front bumper for pulling up for curbs and all that stuff. So the technology on this car is it's incredible.
Finally, a supercar with no blind spots.
Got the front cameras up in the front for pulling up for curbs. I mean, it's awesome. All the little technology things they added is really sharp.
Yeah, and since we're talking about visibility, the other huge thing this car has, since it doesn't have the engine on the front, is that this is racing visibility.
Yes.
You can see absolutely everything.
Yeah, that was actually another thing that I really noticed when I was out in Laguna Seca. Is just I felt like I could just really see everything right over the hood. Everything was just so much more present versus like the C7. You got this like yacht that you're looking over the bow of. But yeah, this is
okay. So now I have the dumbest question. Why this car?
Why this car? Oh man. Well, you know, I think on the big level, you've got GM. I mean, I think it just had to happen, right? They've had generation after generation, and I think that, you know, GM's even shared and Chevy's shared that they had optimized the C7 platform, and that was the best that they were going to get with the ZR1 that was released out of a front-engine Corvette. And then that ZR1 is a pinnacle car. I mean, that thing is incredible. And with this now, you know, I think this is this whole new platform. For me personally, I mean, I loved my C7. I raced the Z28, so I've kind of been ingrained in this like Chevy culture now. And literally, I mean, when I saw this thing, I fell in love, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I wanted this car, and I was so excited to get it. And I wanted just a fun street car that I could take out to the track and actually take my wife out on a date without her complaining about the exhaust and cam and everything else. So,
folks, this is America's sports car. So, you know, Russ, you're such my dear friend. You know how much I love you, how much I think of you. You're the smartest guy, the best guy ever. You know, we talked about this car and...
let me guess, Al. Should I go get the kids' booster seat so you can take this thing for a ride?
Yes!
All right, man. Come on over here.
Right.
Have fun with it. Take care of it. We'll see you in a little bit.
Thank you, buddy.
All right.
chief engineer, Taj, I want to apologize for butchering your name. And Zora, you're so right. Thinking about what is it that makes this car so magic, so dialed in from the get-go, so race-like, especially if you use the 3 modes. I mean, there's several modes. You can actually do your own mode if you want. You can customize it. But you have the sport mode, the Z mode or Zora mode, and then the race mode. In any of those modes, you actually feel almost like you're in a Formula car. So again, asking myself, what is it that keeps the car so grounded and level and dialed in and precise? And I come to this one conclusion: the oil pan is gone. Therefore, the engine goes low, back, level with the drivetrain. The leaf springs are gone, coilovers now. That's it. That's basically what makes a huge difference. Because by having everything low, you have that low center of gravity, and we all know what that means. That means handling. And at the same time, it translates into horsepower to the road. That's why I've driven cars 700 horsepower, 750, 800 horsepower. An Indy car over 900 horsepower. We're not gonna compare it with an Indy car, but it does not feel like 490 horsepower car. The power is right there, and it reminds me of Porsche. Intelligent horses, finally, on this American Beauty. Make a long story short, for those who don't understand how this thing works, of course, yes, you don't have the oil pan. What you have is an oil reservoir, which is right behind the seat. You just have 3 scavenger pumps. And the 3 pumps, 3 of them, 2 on this side, 1 on this other side, they constantly pump oil. So then we're all set. And then having no pan, we lower everything. That's the magic. Steering wheel. What I like about the steering wheel that is square is that it invites you to do the right thing. Put the hand at 3 p.m. and the other hand at 9 p.m. We get into this vice of driving with the hand right up here. And no, please, let's do it right, especially when we have so many horses available. The cockpit, it's just fantastic. First of all, the quality. For years, we thought, a lot of people thought, it was kind of like a little under par, kind of like cheesy, maybe. The materials were not that great. The inside is now Supercar level. Fantastic. It's very centric drive. Actually, the passenger may feel a little isolated. Not a car to go parking. But very ingenious how they done. For example, they got rid of the air conditioner where it usually goes, which is right up front. And the reason they did that is because they want to have the big screen. Otherwise, if we have the air conditioning right up front, the screen will have to be up higher or be smaller. If it's up higher, it's blocking our view. If it's smaller, we may not see that well. The size of the screen is gorgeous, the right size, clear. So what they've done what they do in fighter pilots. They put all the stuff right here on the side. Now, one of the great things, new things for Corvette, is that for the first time, Corvette will be available worldwide right-hand side drive. I've seen the holes for the cone steering and the chassis, so it's ready to go. The world, you're going to enjoy it on the right-hand side. So we already talked about the brakes with our friend Russ Taylor, but we haven't said that they're Brembos, and they're 4-piston systems, not 6-piston like you may be used to on a high-performance race car. All the weight is in the back, it's low. The rear brakes work a lot more. Weight transfer is minimal compared to what it used to be, having the engine in front. The car comes with a unbelievable Bose system, 10 speakers, or at least this one has that. It's fantastic. On the other hand, you know, the Symphony is the V8. So either way, you can't lose. On the ingenious dial that you have by your right hand, you can pick the program that you're going to use to drive. I highly recommend the top three, which would be the Sport mode, the Z mode or Zora mode, and the track mode, of course. However, you can make your own mode. That's how fantastic is this PDR system. So don't forget to use your PDR to choose your modes. The system is actually very simple to use. The car does make for daily drive. But of course, what I love is that being a GM, maintenance is minimal. You know, having the 6.2 engine with the 8 gears and so many years of developing similar engines, you can really drive this car like we're doing right now, very slow. And it'll be very, very smooth compared to, for example, a Viper. I used to have Vipers. You'd have Viper GTS. I used to race a Viper. And whenever I did this kind of driving, it was like a little nervous. This is like, if you're driving a Fiat 500, thing is quiet, smooth. It's not asking to go, surprisingly enough. Absolutely fantastic. The car delivered, GM delivered. This is exactly what they said they would do, and they did this and then some. The car is as amazing as the story about Corvette. Second World War, it's over. The GIs come home. What do? They bring Jags, Alfa Romeos, MGs, cars that they were not being made in America, nothing like it. In America, we still had all those big, huge cars. Kids go nuts. GM realizes, okay, this is the new wave. They're gonna want this kind of cars. There's gonna be a market. Therefore, 1951, they command Harley Earl to make the first Corvette. And Mr. Concept Car, he ended up being the father of the concept cars, not the father of Corvette. Makes a fantastic looking car. 1953 it comes out. So the Corvette debuts in 1953 at Motorama. Motorama was GM's car show in New York City. One of the people that attended Motorama was Mr. Duntov, Zora Duntov. Don't forget that name. He absolutely fell in love with the car, the shape, beautiful. He was a little shocked, maybe disappointed, when he saw what was underneath. The Corvette had a 6-cylinder and did not even pack 150 horsepower. So Mr. Duntov, who was a Belgian race car driver and who ends up being the father of the Corvette, a Russian. Mr. Duntov, 1954, gets hired by GM and takes over the project. 1955, he finally comes out with the Corvette that has the identity that it kept for decades. Front engine, V8, rear-wheel drive, eye candy, big time eye candy. In no time, the world took notice and it became America's sports car. And immediately, Zora requested the engine be put in the back. It would make for a much better sports car. Unfortunately, by then, they had become the victims of their own success. And what I mean by that is that no car with a rear-wheel engine would be a Corvette. Suits of GM kind of shelved the project. They brought it back a couple of times, doing some beautiful concept cars. They brought us the Corvair, but that was a small car through the 60s. In the 80s, they brought the Fiero, only 98 horsepower. The R version had 150 horsepower. It was a beautiful car. I wish they had developed that car. But nothing like the real deal, nothing like the American sports car that was known worldwide. So Zora kept pushing and pushing. For decades, GM was telling us that they were going to come with the project, and we totally get it. Who was going to pull the trigger? After Corvette had such a huge success. So by 1996, Zora had passed, and by 2000, Corvette had made the decision to run the Corvettes in every single race at Le Mans. And for the last 20 years, they've been doing so with an unprecedented record. They have won 8 out of the last 20 Le Mans. So it's no coincidence that when they started racing on Le Mans in the year 2000, they had the new head engineer known as Tad. The Corvette C5 had come out the year before. They wanted to promote the Corvette C5, and basically, ever since the C5, C5, C6, C7, and C8, they're basically race cars. They're just ready to go. There's very little things that you have to do to those cars, street cars, to make them into race cars. Tad is a genius, and this is a product, the latest product of his. It was a huge gamble, and it paid off better than what anyone expected. The car is a real deal. What they have brought to the table is a car that embarrasses $300,000 cars. This is a game changer. This is a revolution, not the evolution of the C6, C7, and now this. So to cap it off, we had the C1, C2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all fantastic evolutions of what was there before. This is the revolution. The C8, nothing like it. This car is embarrassing $300,000 cars. 2.80 to 60, a quarter mile, 11 seconds. Actually, you put drag race tires, you'd be on the 10-second range. For a 60K car, $60,000? Realistically, okay, $67,000 if you get all the nice packages just to get it go. It's beyond incredible. So anyway, I was so excited to show you guys this car. It's unbelievable. Wish you guys would have the experience just to be even anything like a passenger. It's nothing like it. Regardless, I'm so thankful to you guys for all the comments you made to our videos. So once again, subscribe, give us a like, some comments. I would love to see your car, so maybe you want to attach a photo of your car. And above all, do not forget to love the car you're with. Thank you so much, and don't forget the next episode. We're going to Vegas on a race car. This is unique. You're gonna love that. We'll see you soon.